Hello and welcome. I'm sure a lot of you recognized that song, and I want to give props to Kate Bush for that amazing song. What's interesting about this, we are going to get into, but what's interesting about this is when I searched that song, there are so many remakes. Now, when I first started, this was probably a month ago that I wrote this message for you guys to listen to, and there were not as many remakes. So what has happened over the last 4 weeks has been that this song has blown up for two reasons. So I feel like, for one, Stranger Things. People love Stranger Things. I think that a lot of people are starting to now get around to watching it, and word has spread that the show is amazing. Second thing is that, well, let's get to the second thing after we talk. So I want to tell you guys that I love music. Music is one of my favorite ways to change my vibration. Music is one of the ways that I get in tune with my spirit. It's one of the ways that I talk to God, universe, spirit, whatever your words that you use. I use God, but that doesn't mean that I'm right over you or wrong over you. It doesn't matter. Words are for us to be able to communicate with each other, and I want to communicate with you about music. So, music speaks on so many different levels. When you're listening to music, you have the hearing, feeling, seeing, thinking, and sometimes you even get to watch a video, so you kind of get to see what the artist actually is portraying. When they create a video, it's their way of getting you to experience what was in their mind when they wrote the song, and get you to experience the same feeling that they had when they wrote it. So music is not only flowing into your ears, but it's also creating an energy through your frequency and vibration. So I'm going to read from my notes because I wrote this actually when I was in spirit. I felt inspired to write this, and I truly believe that it came through me from God. So that's why I'm wanting to share it with you today. So music is flowing into your ears, but it's creating energy through frequency and vibration. It's also the artist, the person who wrote it, whether it's the songwriter, the person singing it, the band, all of those people coming together and creating an energy that's speaking to you. Then you have the lyrics. The lyrics are telling you a story. So then this story is creating an energy within you, in your mind for thinking, in your eyes for seeing, in your ears for hearing, and in your soul for feeling. And you see how I'm hitting all points, mind, body, and soul. So your lyrics tell you a story. They walk you through what the artist wants you to experience. So a song, oftentimes, I've heard many artists say this, a song oftentimes is a way that they tell a story that either has already occurred, they get it out of their being, like writing a song about something that has occurred helps them move past it. I've heard that writing a song helps them experience something that they want to experience. So music is really powerful because it can actually take you places that you've already been. It can take you places that you've never been, and it can take you places that you want to go. And it can take you in the moment to have an experience of a feeling that it's untouchable, really. So they walk you through their experience. So now you're engaged with thinking and visualization, right? So when you hear a song, unbeknownst to you, you're probably automatically visualizing the first time you connect with a song that you vibe with, that you're like, oh my gosh, I love this song. It makes me feel a certain way. You're like, in your mind, thinking about things that maybe either a time that the song played and you remember a memory from a relationship that you had, or maybe it's your wedding song and you danced to this song at your wedding. It was your first dance with your husband or your wife. But the coolest thing is that before you see a video, you're creating your own story around the song, right? So you're creating a story with how it relates to you, and you're visualizing what you think it means and what the story could look like, and create the story and how it relates to you and about you, right? So sometimes we hear a song in a movie, and And producers, movie creators, they know this about music. There are specific songs, there are specific tunes, frequencies, vibrations that they use. And I've done research on this. I've actually watched many documentaries and read different things about how there are certain tones and vibrations that actually hit our being in a certain way. For example, when we have like spooky movies, they actually use a baby crying. And we don't know this, but they change it. So people have actually researched how things hit us in our body, and they see how you feel about it. And one of the things is they take a baby's cry and then they distort it, and they actually use it in the background. So like when you are hearing like someone watching someone walk down a spooky hallway, and there's going to be like a climax of a scary thing that's going to happen, they'll get you to get even further into that fear moment by using a baby crying in the background. But you don't know it's a baby crying because they've actually taken that baby and they like distorted it enough to be unrecognizable. But your soul, your physical being, actually recognizes the vibration. And even though it's been twisted, here's what it is. So they take you on a story. So now I'm going to go back to my notes, because this way I can stay on task. Everything that was ever created is not new. It's not a new idea. God laid out the plan for the universe and everything in it. Formless substance, God, spirit, whatever you call it, it is the one who is sending the messages for us to create. So how do you think that we know what to do, how to create things? People just get this idea like randomly out of nowhere, right? Or they think that it's randomly out of nowhere. But like, for example, when I wrote this, I felt spirit moving through me. Now, if you're aware and you're conscious enough to, and I don't mean conscious like awake, I mean conscious like paying attention to your actions, paying attention to your thoughts, paying attention to what you're doing, then all of a sudden it's like you can recognize that feeling of spirit when you're feeling inspired. And that word does come from being in spirit, being in the spirit of something. So like, I love this example. One of my mentors uses it in her trainings, and I love it, so I'm stealing it. Thanks, Kathleen. But she says, when you go to the Super Bowl, right? So like, let's say you watch the Super Bowl at home. This is very different than actually attending the Super Bowl. You're watching the Super Bowl at home. You're probably making some snacks, and you have it on in the background while you're making dinner. Maybe your husband and your kids are watching football, and maybe you put on a jersey, but it's very different than when you go to the Super Bowl and you sit in the stands, and maybe in the parking lot you show up and you do the pre-Super Bowl party. They have the tailgate party, they have the face paint, and they wear the gear, and they get in the spirit of the Super Bowl, right? And there are those who get in the spirit of Super Bowl at home in that same fashion, and those people are experiencing the game very differently than those of us that just turn it on because it's the Super Bowl and we're like, we're just going to tune in. Or maybe you're people like me where you like to watch halftime. I like football, but I like the halftime show. That gets me into the spirit of things because dance, singing, that's my jam. Hence this share. So sometimes the message is interpreted differently by different people. And that's why we're all moved in different ways, which is what makes us really like very unique. And I think it's cool that we get to share our differences and how we can experience things differently through different perspectives. So sometimes the message is, my dog is snoring, sorry. Sometimes the message is interpreted different by different people, but when it comes down to it, however you or anyone interprets that specific message, it's perfect in that moment, at that time, whatever it is that you're experiencing for your maximum growth. So whether it be a song, whether it be a movie, whether it be meeting a new friend, whether it be a workout that you just killed yourself, and whatever it is that you're experiencing in that moment is perfect for your maximum growth. That is how God intended it to be. That is how formless substance, spirit, universe creates, is through you having maximum growth. So of course, that is the goal always, is to be receiving maximum growth. So this means that nothing is ever wrong, nothing's ever bad. So like when we have an experience, it just is, right? But when a message shows up repeatedly, now this is where it gets good. When a message shows up repeatedly, take that as a sign that you need to pay attention. So if something keeps showing up and showing up and showing up, that means you either have one of two things. You need to have an awareness for it, for one, and pay attention to when and why it's showing up. And also, are there any specific people there who are constantly in that said thing? Or is it just something that God, Spirit, Formless Substance wants you to pay attention to so that you can grow into the next level of who you need to be? So that takes me to breaking down my very first song. I'm going to be coming live. I should have said this at the beginning. Maybe I'll cut this and put this at the beginning. I'm going to be coming live to you every single week, sharing a new song, new or old, new song to you that I've broken down based on the lyrics and what I have experienced and how I have experienced it and what I think that the artist is trying to share with us, but also what the artist actually did say that they wanted us to experience. So my very first song, as you can probably guess, based on our intro, and if the intro didn't play, then that just means that I got muted for music, but that's okay. So I'm gonna play a little bit so you can know what we're gonna be doing, and here we are. All right, so we're just gonna stop there for a second. Oops. And we are going to talk about Kate Bush for a second. Kate Bush running up that hill, make a deal with God, making a deal with God. Let me see what a deal with God is actually. So that's the very first thing I want to talk about is the title of the song. So I started to wonder because I heard the song a long time ago, but I recognized it and I was like, man, I used to love that song. And sorry, I moved my whole situation here. And I was like, I never really thought about that song and what it meant or what it was. And so because of the way that Stranger Things, and spoiler alert, I may or may not share things about Stranger Things. So if you haven't gotten to season 3, shut it off now, go finish watching it and come back. Okay. Because you're going to want to hear what I have to say. And if you haven't watched Stranger Things yet and you're scared to, don't be afraid because I don't like scary things, but I watched Stranger Things because my sons wanted to watch it, my 14-year-old sons, and I was like, I don't think they should watch it. It's too scary. I don't think they should, blah, 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 blah. So I watched it with them and ended up falling in love with the characters. Like, who wouldn't? And then I realized it actually had a really powerful message. And I normally don't watch anything like this because I feel like it impacts me negatively. But I consciously made a decision in this particular situation, knowing going into it that it was kind of scary, knowing there were some things that I don't necessarily agree with putting into my subconscious mind, but I made a conscious choice to not allow it to affect my subconscious mind. So step number 1, if there's something that you want to experience, but you don't want it to affect your subconscious mind, I believe, this is my opinion, I believe that you can and successfully choose for something not to affect you negatively if you've already decided in advance that you don't want it to. I believe that because I've used it and it works for me. So try it sometime. If you don't believe me, try it sometime. Share with me what you've experienced. I would love to hear it. So this particular song was used in that show as a way, it was this girl's favorite song, one of the characters' favorite songs, and it was a way of bringing her back to reality, right? So in Stranger Things, if you haven't watched it, there's the upside down, and they don't even call it the right side up. They just call it like real world or whatever. And in my mind, I think to myself, okay, Stranger Things, like I'm going to have a whole episode about Stranger Things. This is going to be like, I'm going to try and make these less than 20 minutes. But Stranger Things is like so many things wrapped up in it that I could share with you. But there's an upside down, which is where bad, scary things happen. And then there's the real world that regular life is happening. The upside down is a replica. It's a complete duplicate image of the right side up world, right? So, and the only way to get there is through your mind or through a portal. So this girl goes through there in her mind because of some things. And so they use this song, Running Up That Hill, as a way to bring her back because it's her favorite song. But I started wondering about the song because I'm a music girl. I like to learn about things. And I thought, what is the message in this song? Why did they use this particular song for this particular thing? Because I started thinking about Stranger Things and how it actually relates to mindset, and how I really believe that the creators of Stranger Things are trying to take us on a different type of journey in a different type of way and learning mindset. I see you out there. I think I don't remember their last name. Something Brothers. Dunn Brothers. I don't know. I messed it up. I'll find out. So we'll talk about Stranger Things at another time. So Run Up That Hill, Kate Bush. This is a song about a woman and a man in a relationship. And I'm looking at my notes because I want to get this right. And she wrote this because she was thinking that, man, if we could just change shoes with the other person, if we could just see it from their perspective, there wouldn't be any problems in relationships at all, right? So originally, there's like so much in this song about what she wanted and how she wanted it to be portrayed. Originally, she wanted to I don't remember if it was her or the producers or not the agency, her record label. When they were making the video, they wanted to do this like story of the man and the woman, but they ended up just having it be dance, which was really beautiful. So if you haven't watched the video, go watch the video because it is really beautiful. And it kind of takes you on a ride, but you have to really pay attention to the ride because it could just be seen as two people dancing. So it's a song about a man and a woman in a relationship. If given the ability to trade roles, they might understand each other. So originally, Kate had wanted to write the song as If I Made a Deal with the Devil. And she then thought, but man, if I made a deal with God instead of make a deal with the devil, it's so much more powerful. And I thought, that's brilliant. So she says, because that's so much more powerful, the idea of making a deal with God is so different, because we always hear, I made a deal with the devil. You know, you always hear that as like a cliche saying that people say. But she was like, if I really thought about something being powerful, making a deal with God is like really powerful, right? And the deal that she's making is kind of a beautiful deal because it's not her saying, God, I want to win $1 million. God, I want a better husband. God, I want this man to understand me. She's saying, I want to understand your perspective. She's asking God, and here's the really cool thing. This is what it all boils down to. I'm not going to give it away yet. But she's basically teaching mindset in this song, and we can absolutely achieve what she's saying. We can make a deal with God. We've already made the deal. So hang in, and pay attention. Okay, we're almost there. So originally the song was called Deal with God, right? So the record label decided that it wouldn't get as many plays if it was named anything with God in the title. So they said, listen, you can't name it that. We don't want you to do that. This is a brand new record. So this song was going to be on this brand new record she'd been working on for 2-3 years. And she was like, I don't want to change the title. Like, she was like, I'm going to be stubborn. I'm not going to change this. But then she started thinking about it, and she was like, and if Kate Bush, if you see this, I would love to do an interview with you. Just saying. I would love to do that. That would be so fun to talk about this song particularly, because I really would love to pick your brain, because I want to know if what I'm saying is really true. This is my opinion of what I think. So now I did research this part. So I do know that she didn't want to change the name, but she ended up allowing them to change the name to Running Up That Hill. And then you'll notice on like Apple and wherever you play the song from, it says A Deal with God, because she didn't really want to change it, but she also didn't want to take away from people hearing the song and hearing her message, because this song, I truly believe, probably came from Spirit, because it was basically a song about, and this is where it's coming. The message is coming. This is where She wanted people to put themselves in other people's shoes, not in just a man and a woman relationship, not just in your love relationship, but in any relationship, any interaction that you have with another human being. This is my take on it, that you can actually use this as a way to experience why the other person might be having resistance with you or why you're having problems with them. Make a deal with God. Let's see it from their perspective, right? It's all about perspective. This song is basically her saying, let's make a deal with God so that we can switch and you be in my shoes, I'll be in your shoes. And then we don't even have to like really talk about the problem, because there isn't a problem, because then we understand why you're mad or why I'm mad or why it's not working or whatever it is. If we just would look at the other person's perspective, we wouldn't have to be concerned about any of the problems. So I'm going to go back to my notes. So to me, the story is all about perception, empathy, and true love. What is true love? It's all about accepting each other exactly as we are, not asking for compromise, but stepping into the other person's shoes. So the first line of the song says, it doesn't hurt me. Do you want to feel how it feels? Do you want to know that it doesn't hurt me? Do you want to hear about the deal that I'm making? So she's basically saying, like, you're doing things that would hurt me, but it's not going to hurt me anymore because I'm putting myself in your shoes and I'm going to see it from your perspective because I'm making a deal with God and God is allowing me to see why you're doing what you're doing, and it's not going to hurt me anymore. So then it goes into the chorus. And if I only could, I'd make a deal with God and I'd get him to swap our places. I'd be running up that road, be running up that hill, be running up that building. So if I only could. So then she goes to her second verse and she says, you don't want to hurt me, but see how deep the bullet lies. So now she's taking him to her perspective, or taking the other person to her perspective. Unaware, I'm tearing you asunder. So like, she's like, you're shooting me, but I'm also tearing you up. And then she says, oh, there's thunder in our hearts. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can just feel it. I literally have goosebumps right now. I can feel that on a whole nother level. And she says, is there so much hate for the ones that we love? Because that's what happens. Like when we are lashing out like that, we're creating hate. We're creating damage in our relationships. And I want to share something else about a book that I read too that goes along with this too. And then she says, oh, tell me, we both matter, don't we? And I'm like, oh gosh, this is so good. Like, we do both matter. So then she goes back to the chorus. It's you and me, won't be unhappy. We won't be unhappy. She's basically saying we're not going to be unhappy anymore because we're going to see it from the other person's perspective. Excuse me. And then it goes back to the chorus again. And if I only could, I'd make a deal with God. I'd get him to swap our places. We run up that road, we run up that hill. So let's play the song because I want you guys to feel it. So now I want you to get into the feeling of it, okay? Are you ready? So we're feeling that song, right? Like, I know you're out of your seat and you're singing with me. If you don't know the song, go listen to it. It's so good. Download it. So then she goes on to say, oh, come on, baby. Come on, darling. Let me steal this moment from you now. And this is my favorite part of the song. She says, let me steal this moment from you now. Come on, angel. Come on, darling. Let's exchange the experience. So I'm like, in this moment, now I'm like fully committed. I'm like, okay, I'm swapping places. I want to see this from your perspective. I want to feel what you're feeling. But then I realize this works both ways, right? So you're having a problem in your relationship and all of a sudden you switch places and you're like, oh my gosh, I never even really realized that they felt this way. But this can happen both ways. This can happen for the negative and it can also happen for the positive. So like you see your spouse is like, or whoever, your boyfriend, girlfriend, friend, sister, whatever the relationship is, you see them and you're like, man, okay, let's use this example because it's most fresh in my mind. You see someone on Facebook, right? You're like one of your friends, you're like, oh, she's in Maldives? Wow. So like, you know, at first thought, you're like, ugh, I wish I was in Maldives. You know, like you want to be like, kind of like, oh, she's so lucky. You know, you want to have that jealousy. But then you realize if we could swap the experience, wow, feel like how excited she must be and how great this is that she's getting to go to Maldives. And then you get to think about, well, if she can do that, so could I, right? So now we're experiencing this from a good perspective. Instead of being jealous and envious of what's happening in someone else's lives, we can also be excited and happy and courageous. So now we're thinking like, oh, good for her. We're like so excited and we're encouraging the same thing in a relationship, right? So if you have a problem or even you have like a win, like, you know, you're like, man, you know, my partner got a promotion at work. You get to experience that through them instead of thinking like, man, I wish I could have a promotion or man, I wish I could go on vacation. It's like, oh, that's so awesome. Like, I love that they get to do that. Congratulations. And you experience it. You swap places by being excited and being happy. That is true love, right? So then, I don't think she said the problem sings until the end. So I want to finish this out. So the outro says, say if I only could be running up that hill with no problems. And that really is what it boils down to, is that if only could, I'd be running up that hill with no problems. If you ran the other person's hill, you would understand where they're coming from. If you ran the other person's hill, you would know what it took them to get to Maldives. If you ran the other person's hill, you could see how excited that promotion makes them because they worked, I don't want to say really hard, they worked and held the vision and ran after their purpose. So what I'm saying today is put yourself in the other person's shoes. Put yourself in a place where you get to experience something through someone else, whether it's good or bad. You can experience it and then choose how you want to react to it. How do you want to respond to something and see it from someone else's perspective? So now I want to say one more thing. So the last thing I want to talk about is, so here we have Kate Bush. We've listened to her, right? So there are tons and tons of other artists. I'm not going to go through all the songs, but I want you to pay attention and listen as I go through these different songs. And I want you to pay attention to the way the artist is trying to make you feel. So now we have different artists singing the same song, but each one makes you feel just a slight bit differently, because that's where spirit comes in. When you're inspired and you sing, create, but you're doing something that someone else already created, there is nothing new anyways. It doesn't even matter. And I'm sure that Kate Bush feels super honored that all these people are singing, re-singing her song. And she's probably like, oh my gosh, I love that version. You know, I don't think that she would ever be like, ugh, everybody's copying my song. This as leaders, we all need to know that when we create something and other people start to do it, that means we did something right. That means we did something really good. And that means God was in it. That means you were inspired, formless substance, universe, creator, whatever you want to call it, worked through you. And now he's using your song or your creation to get other people inspired so that they can express their soul. So let's play a couple other songs, and then I'm going to end this because we're already at 30 minutes. This is going to be a really easy, fun thing for you guys to listen to because it's about music. Everybody loves music. So now, hang on one second. We're going to listen to, we already heard Kate's. Now we're going to listen to, let's do Jimmy Tate. And I'm going to skip into the song. So this one's similar. A little different. Now this one was actually created for Stranger Things. So that one actually has a little bit, I can feel the darker side of it because it's dark, but it's hopeful. It's uplifting. They created it a certain way, and I'm sure there's probably things in there that I feel because they're trying to create a show around it, right? So now, here's another one from Stranger Things. A little different. And I know the different areas they played this because I've seen it. So now we're like, you know, the hero's like, come on. So now we're like, this is another story, right? So you can feel the energy changing and shifting. So that was Titus. The last one was Jimmy Tate. So now I'm gonna play you a different one out. It's called Placebo. I don't know. It looks like it's a cover for something. So this one's a little different. You hear it already? I'm gonna skip into it so you can hear it. There's a thunder in our hearts, baby. Do you feel the energy got different, right? So now, tell me we both matter, don't we? I can still feel the story, but there's a different energy behind it. You and me. So that one was a little bit slower. There was a little bit of a different energy. So now we're gonna take it up higher. And this one's like, just goes right into it. Goes right into the story, right? This one's getting you dancing. Come on, get out of your seat, right? I love it. So that one's a lot of fun. It gets you feeling happy, like you can feel the energy shift. Now we're gonna go into, I think this one's a rock. Let's see here. I'm saving my favorite for last. So now you're like, yeah, let's jam out. This is like another different energy, but excited still, okay? Still different, but it's still really good, right? So there's your rock. So now we've got, let's see here. We've got the last one, which is voice play. This one's my favorite. This is all just voices. There's no music. So to me, for this one, it's really like transformative. It moves me. It makes me feel a certain way. I just love it. So hang on, we're gonna play this one. This is all voice. Beatboxing too. So how amazing is that? That, I mean, I literally goosebumps every song, but every artist is giving us a little bit different flavor on it. And I love this because there are times when we're gonna be like, oh, I loved this version, or I didn't love this version, or wow, that really moved me. Or like you'll hear the song and it's not the original artist, and then you go back to the original artist, you're like, why doesn't this connect? And so like, that's what I think is really cool, because when artists remake a song, that is spirit moving through them to create a new energy through the same information. And it's no different when you have a book. You know, so like this guy has several different books, and I know, like, I feel like his books are all very similar, but there's always something just a little bit different. But I know the information is kind of the same, but it gives me a different feeling because he allowed Spirit to go through and work with him to create this particular book. And this can happen with anything. It can happen with books. It can happen with songs. It can happen with dance. It can happen with speeches. It can happen with preaching. It can happen with any kind of creation. It can happen even if the information is the same. It doesn't matter because we all have our own way of speaking it. Just the same way that I'm speaking this, someone else may have already done this before, talked about music and how breaking down the lyrics and talking about, how music moves us and it's an energetic flow. So I guess what I really want to say to you is that the whole message of this is two things. First one is, when Spirit moves through you, act. Take action. Whatever it is that you're feeling like you want to create, but you're kind of like feeling that imposter syndrome, put the imposter syndrome down. There's no room for it here. It doesn't serve you. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter whether someone else has already spoken it, created it, danced it, had it, whatever. Do your thing and do it the way you would do it and own it. And if somebody, needs to have that recognition and they come to you and they're like, hey man, this is my stuff, then honor that. But that's where it steps into our next number 2, perspective. Put yourself in their shoes and think about how many years Kate Bush worked on that album. And what if every single song that she had on that album, everybody remade? Think about the heart, the sweat, the tears went into that. Maybe she feels a certain way because there was an emotional time during that period. I don't know. But put yourself in someone else's perspective before you start passing judgment. If we could just see the perspective from the other person's shoes, we wouldn't have any problems. And that is her whole goal of the song. Done. That's it. So on that note, I'm going to end it right there. And I know I said 20 minutes, but I'm going to cut this up and it's going to be 20 minutes. So I'll talk to you guys later. I hope you enjoyed this rendition of music breakdown. I don't even know what I'm going to call this, but right now I'm calling it song lyric breakdown or music moves me. I don't know. Music Monday. We'll see. We'll find something. Have a good day.